We are back. Sports are back. Episode 63. And Brett, it feels like a normal show again because we have some MLB bets to get over. We have. Go over, not get over.
No, I have to get over the Reds.
You have to get over the Reds. You're right. Because that was one of your social media picks that you had, but you gave up. Anyways, this is the next best bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy, as always. And it's a normal show, Brett. We have hindsight with Higgins. We have pick of the pod and Levy locks. We have a money line magic, Beginners Boulevard. It's starting to feel a little normal again in the sporting world.
We're so back that the Reds blew an eighth inning lead and took my money. So it feels just like old times, Higgins. And, it's kind of funny. Like, I've heard other gamblers say this, and I almost feel the same way. Like, that loss hurt a lot less. It was like, well, at least I lost on sports.
Well, so let's get into the hindsight with Higgins for that. So the bet that Brett is talking about, if you don't follow us on social media, you should, because that's where he gave that out. At NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page. He had Reds minus 1.5 on Saturday, and it was a close game, but a 2-run ninth gave them the loss 6-4.
Yeah, it was not very enjoyable finish for Cincinnati backers, and the Reds came out again on Sunday and lost to the Tigers. So you got to be worried if you back the Reds. I know we talked about it on our season preview where they were co-favorites to win the NL Central, Higgins, and to drop two to the Tigers is a little concerning.
It is concerning, but it's also still very early, so let's not raise the red flag or raise the alarm yet. But this is a unique circumstance. There's only 60 games. It's not like the 162 where that opening season or opening series doesn't necessarily matter. Every game matters in a 60 game series, especially. But Brett, you lost your one social media post that you had over the weekend. I posted 3 UFC picks, two individuals, and parlaying those two, and all three of them lost. Wasn't even close.
Well, hopefully you took a little solstice in the fact that you lost on some sports.
I did, but I should have listened to what we said in episode 62, where you were proud of me for taking the favorite in the UFC because I've been burnt by betting the underdogs. I tried taking two underdogs again, and that's how they lost. One of them lost so quickly, Collier got knocked out in the first 45 seconds of the first round. I didn't even get to see it because the stream that I was watching on ESPN Plus, I was casting it to my TV. It was delayed, so when I went to check my phone for the results, I had already seen that fight was over. And when I exited out of the cast and threw it back up on the TV, they're interviewing the winner. I didn't even get to see the second bet that I had.
Oh man, that's a tough one. Well, all right, I think I got you beat though, Higgins. I had two bets placed for opening day, both voided.
And that's sad because they did well. Your Yankees over 4 would have pushed, but that game didn't finish. It got rained out in the 6th inning. And then the Dodgers minus 1.5, they won 8-1. Like, that should have been a win, but why didn't that one hit, Brett?
Well, I try and give our listeners my picks, so I try and have my picks in when we're recording. And Kershaw was still the starting pitcher for the Dodgers on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Up until really 4 hours before game time. So, um, just unfortunate luck there, but I still enjoyed opening day. It was nice to see live baseball in America again.
I will tell you, my bet in that Giants Dodgers game did cash, though. I had the over 8, and Kiki Hernandez with a pointless home run in the 8th inning saved me. He hit a 2-run blast, making it a 9-run game, hitting the over for me. That was a good win. And I did lose my other bet from Thursday. That was a social media, or my episode 62 pick. That was the Nationals money line at plus 114. Now, even though that game got rained out since they played 6 innings, the money line still counted. So even though your Yankees over didn't because it wasn't a full game, Brett, mine did since it can qualify as a complete game.
Yeah, well, that's a bummer. You probably wish you got the voided game.
Yes. But like I said, when you were proud of me in episode 62 with the UFC picking a favorite for once, I picked Robert Whitaker in that main fight, and he won. He beat Darren Till in a fantastic fight. That was a very much back and forth, very close fight, and it was really up in the air when it went to the judges' table. I was confident Whitaker had the edge, but I could have easily seen some of those later rounds potentially go the other way. So it was confidence. It was nice to get that little win there. But that's our hindsight with Higgins. I went 2-1 on episode 62, 0-3 on social media, and Brett, you would have gone 1-0-1, but they both got voided, and you
Yeah.
went 0-1 on social media.
Yeah. Well, the new week, new me, baby.
Well, let's get into Beginner's Boulevard because it kind of touches on one of the things that you mentioned with why your Dodgers bet was voided, the closing line. Now, with this coronavirus and players coming back and everything right now, and late scratches like we have seen from some players, it might be good to wait until closer to that closing line, but you may end up giving up value. The closing line are the odds that are given on a wager whenever that bet closes. So you talk about the Dodgers -1.5. The closing line is that -1.5 right when first pitch happens.
Right. And, there's another term that we've discussed on this podcast, opening line, which is what the line looks like when it opens. So it makes a lot of sense. And for those that waited for the closing line, they could have won their Dodgers bet.
Yeah, as long as you had Dustin May as the probable pitcher, you would have won that bet.
Yep. So probably would have paid for me to wait there a little bit.
And that's kind of why we want to be a little tentative and why it's important to follow us on social media because we may be giving out a little bit of less picks on the podcast, but we'll be giving out plenty of picks on our social media just because of this uncertainty that we want to make sure we're giving you value with this. So we're going to still be giving out picks on our podcast and everything like this, but make sure to follow us on social media so that you are also getting those picks there as well that are we're making in between these podcast episodes.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you summed it up best with everything going on in the world right now. You just never know what's going to happen to a player. We saw in the WNBA, we've seen in Major League Baseball late scratches, players getting hurt very early in games. We've also seen, players getting scratched for medical reasons, such as COVID. So there's so much uncertainty, like you said, Higgins, and that's why it pays to wait for the closing line. I think you summed it up great.
And there are 12 MLB games going on Monday. We have a few picks for this, but like we said, we're going to probably have some more by Monday morning when this episode comes out. Where we record this on Sunday night. We'll have some picks on Monday to give to you as well, most likely. Let's go through some at first, though. Brett, I like this Angels versus A's game. It's in Oakland. Now, Shohei Ohtani, my boy, did not have a good pitching outing today. He did not come out strong in his debut since his Tommy John surgery, but I think that'll be more motivation for the Angels to want to rebound tomorrow. He'll probably DH tomorrow. Maybe he'll sit on the bench and get a rest day since he pitched today. But I'm going to take the Angels money line at plus 100. I think that's some pretty good value in terms of just a money line bet between two teams in the same division.
Yeah, I mean, the Angels are a mystery. Otani was not great today. I believe he gave up 5 in the first.
He was credited
Uh,
with 5, yes.
yep, and then meanwhile, Dylan Bundy, who couldn't pitch a lick in Baltimore, goes out there and destroys the A's the other day. So it's going to be a weird season, and you never know. But yeah, the Angels have a lot of talent, and plus 100 against the team they've already beaten in the last 3 days. Why not?
That game's a 3:40 Eastern time, so it's going to start before most people finish their workday, just so people know. But that's going to be an interesting game. I like the day games for baseball. I think that those games you can find some good value on because there's not going to necessarily be as much money on them sometimes that you can find some of those good day game value picks. The other game that I'm going to be on is also a day game. It's West Coast day game, but it's an East Coast game. It's the Blue Jays Nationals game, and I'm taking the Nationals minus 1.5 plus 135. Now, Toronto, I don't think their head's going to be there because they are coming up very close on when they have to play the Nationals at home. And I say at home because Toronto doesn't have a home right now. They can't play in Toronto. They can't play in Pittsburgh. So is this going to end up being a game that Toronto's going to have to play in Washington on Friday, even though it's supposed to be a Toronto home game? I think the Blue Jays, they're going to have a lot of those out off the field issues that they're going to be thinking about this week right now, and I think it could provide an opportunity to win even on the run line of Washington minus 1.5 at plus 135.
Yeah, and just adding to your statement, the Blue Jays are going to play in Buffalo starting in 2 weeks. They're going to play this game at Washington as the home team. So you hit the nail on the head there. It's going to be very odd watching the Blue Jays take the field and as the home team in Washington, D.C. But it's par for the course in 2020, I think, Higgins.
Now, did you see, are they also going to switch dugouts for the day as well?
Ooh, that's interesting. I have not seen anything about that. That could be funny if they get the home locker room.
For coronavirus reasons, I don't think they should get the home locker room. Personally, I think that having that switch over is an unnecessary risk, especially when we saw the Nationals have a player of Juan Soto test positive before the first game. But that's something that you need to kind of think about because that would definitely make the experience very much different for the Nationals in their home stadium if they are the away team compared to just batting first in the innings.
Yeah, no, that's definitely that really is an interesting point, but I don't know what they're going to do. I'm guessing they'll probably stay in the same dugouts just because the Blue Jays might be like, we're comfortable with this setup. We've done it the last few days. Like, we'll just keep doing it. But I didn't even think about that. So you raise a good point. But I want to talk about a game I'm on in the NL Central. Brewers at Pirates. The Brewers are favorites in the game at minus 135. Pittsburgh plus 125 on the money line. But on the run line, the Brewers minus 1.5 at plus 110. And I think that's a great value because Milwaukee has last year's MVP, although he hasn't gotten off to the hottest start in baseball. And Pittsburgh is one of the bottom feeders in the NL. And I think the Brewers, if they want to be competitive this year, they have to play well against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And you bring up Yelich. The MVP can only stay cold for so long. Hopefully, it's only their first series that he's going to stay cold for, and he can rebound and maybe help them get that multi-run win. I was looking at that minus 1.5. I think that plus 110 is some great value there, Brett, and I nearly pulled the trigger on it. I'd say I was probably leaning there, but I'm going to stay off of it for right now at least. Like I mentioned, there are 12 MLB games going on Monday, Brett. We're not going to run through all of the individual lines right now. They are, if you're watching our podcast video, going to be in the graphic right next to us, though. Some of the other games that we aren't going to run through the lines of right now are the Braves versus Rays, Cubs at Reds, Yankees at Phillies, White Sox at Indians, and the Royals at Tigers, along with the Mariners at Astros. Brett, there is one more game that you're on, but I do want to mention that there's two games that don't have lines out as of Sunday night as we're recording this. The Mets at the Red Sox and the Diamondbacks at the Padres. And we'll talk about one of those games a little bit later.
Yeah, we will. Diamondbacks Padres has been an interesting series. Astros Mariners has been a very confusing series. So there's been a lot of good baseball. One of those games that particularly catches my eye just as a fan of baseball is Phillies Yankees. I'm excited to see Didi go up against the Yankees. So that one should be fun. But yes, there's one more game for me to talk about, and that's Orioles at Marlins. Everyone's eyes are going to be on that game. Two of the best teams in baseball. Who can look away?
I was going to say, how can you bet on the bottom of the barrel? I can't bet on those types of games.
That's where you get your money, baby. So Baltimore, who played the Red Sox really well this weekend, shockingly well, to be honest.
Yes.
Uh, Baltimore on the money line is plus 130. Miami on the money line is minus 140. On the run line, Baltimore plus 1.5 is minus 170. Miami minus 1.5 is plus 140. And that's where you'll find me, Higgins. I'm on the Marlins plus minus 1.5 at plus 140. The Marlins, who absolutely destroyed the Phillies on Sunday, gets a take on the lowly Orioles. And I look forward to them continuing their red hot streak of great pitching and scoring a lot of runs.
Now, the Marlins and the Orioles have both come out a lot hotter than expected. They're 2-1, both of them. And the Marlins won 11-6 on Sunday, despite giving up 4 home runs to the Phillies. I mean, the bats were going, but it seemed like Miami's bats were going just a little bit hotter. So that'll be interesting to see as both the Orioles and the Marlins are going to come into that series hotter than expected, so someone's going to have to cool off a little bit.
The Marlins have been battling some COVID issues. We saw their pitcher get scratched on Sunday. Garrett Cooper got scratched on Sunday. So we'll have to weigh how that plays into them in the future. But right now they're red hot and they're going home tomorrow. So I'm going to take them at home versus the Orioles.
We will see how that goes. A little bit more of baseball news, though. We're going to talk about it with Money Line Magic. And Brett, while we're recording this, the Braves versus the Mets is still going on right now, but we're going to talk about Saturday's Mets Braves game because Sunday's game is not a money line magic unless the Mets pull off something amazing right here. It's 14-1 with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, so that would be quite the money line
That
magic.
would be the very definition of money line magic right there, Higgins.
But on Saturday, the Mets were winning 2-1 with 2 outs in the top of the ninth with Edwin Diaz pitching, and Ozuna hit a game-tying solo shot, sent the game to extras, and then in the top of the 10th inning, it's important to note that with the extra innings in this shortened season, a runner is starting on second base. So Atlanta was able to score 1 run from that. It gained momentum for them rather quickly. They ended up scoring 3 in the top of the 10th, while the Mets only scored 1. And while the Mets played a great 8 innings, it was those last 2 innings that came up to bite them, and they lost 5-3.
I just cannot watch Edwin Diaz throw pitches in a Mets uniform anymore. I watched opening day and he nearly blew that one. I'm telling you, this ball was inches from hitting the foul pole, Higgins. He ended up getting the guy out on the next pitch. Austin Riley, for anyone who cares. But oh my goodness, to see him do it 2 days in a row. Like, I literally thought he did it twice. Because on opening day, this ball was inches from going out and sending the thing to extra innings. They go back to him the next day, show their faith in the guy, and what does he do? Gives up a bomb. The Mets lose. Everyone goes home sad. The next day they come out, get blown out by 14 runs.
Which is actually official now. It's 14-1, fly out to left field. Braves won.
So, yeah, I bring on the Red Sox.
Edwin Diaz has 1 save. He has been in all 3 games so far, and his ERA is a 4.5. Not what you want from one of your relievers and who's supposed to be your closer in terms of how he starts this season. We will see how the Mets respond in that situation going into Boston, but it'll be interesting. Before we get into that, though, let's talk about the NBA, Brett. I mean, Zion Williamson's expected to come back. He followed the coronavirus protocols, and he's back on the campus doing his 4-day quarantine right now.
Yeah, so what are we calling it? Opening night, reopening night, NBA is back night. Like,
I don't think they can do the NBA is back. I feel like the MLS would probably try to sue them over that.
the NBA is back tournament. Um, no, you're right. They probably can't do that one, but whatever. He should be good for that opening night game against the Utah Jazz. I'm sure there will be a lot of eyeballs on that one. People are going to be excited. But I think the big story out of the NBA is someone who didn't follow the proper protocol, and that's Lou Williams. Lou Williams has to serve a 10-day quarantine when he gets back to the bubble. He was excused to leave the bubble, but he somehow ended up at Magic City, which, I mean, between you and me, can't really blame the guy.
According to him, it is his favorite restaurant in Atlanta. And he said there were no entertainings working at this gentleman's club. So it's his favorite restaurant in Atlanta. He was picking up food, but a picture from rapper Jack Harlow, which is funny because Jack Harlow's from Louisville, and Lou Williams' nickname is Lou Willville.
What's poppin'?
Exactly. Brand new whip just hopped in. But Jack Harlow, one thing we learned about this guy is he will blatantly lie for you if he finds out that he messed up. Because he posted an IG story that showed Lou Williams there and quickly deleted it. But then once he was questioned on it, he said, that was an old picture of me and Lou. I just missed my mans. Even though Lou Williams was wearing a face mask with the NBA logo that was only given out on the Orlando campus.
Yeah, it's a tough one for Lou. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sure he wishes he hadn't done it now, but you know, he's gonna serve this 10-day quarantine. He's gonna miss two of their opening games. Should be back for the playoffs, but um, I guess from our perspective, you'd like him to use better judgment there, but at least he wasn't doing something super crazy reckless like we've seen in other sports. So I guess if you're the Clippers, like you're kind of okay with this. I don't know. It's a weird situation.
From what I saw, Doc kind of avoided talking about it, saying like he wasn't there, so he doesn't want to talk on the specifics of it or whatever. But I think it's okay considering that the Clippers don't really need to win or lose these two games. I guess the Clippers could technically catch the Lakers, but that's very unlikely. It would cost the Lakers basically losing every single game, I believe. So the Clippers are in a position where they can allow for this quarantined period with Lou Williams. But Montrezl Harrell's outside of the bubble right now. Patrick Beverley is also outside of the bubble right now. So the Clippers in their first two games could look very different from what we have seen from them, and it'll be interesting to see how that affects the betting lines because they'll still have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George who can easily take over a game and win, but they won't have a lot of that supporting cast.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, and again, that reopening night or whatever the heck we want to call it is Lakers Clippers. So that's a big game to miss. But I guess on a bright note, as long as he does not come back with COVID and bring it into the bubble, like I guess you just kind of wash your hands and move on to game three. I don't know. It's just a weird situation. You clearly need the guy. He's an important player for your team. So you can't be like, oh, this is ridiculous. And, you just got to kind of be like, hey, I wish you were a little smarter about this, but let's move forward.
And some of the last news out of the NBA is Kristaps Porzingis is going to quarantine for one day because he missed a coronavirus test. And I want to ask, how is that really possible? I mean, I'm looking at the article on ESPN right now, and it said 1 day quarantines are handed down to players who forget to go to their designated locations for a daily coronavirus test. How can you forget this? It's such a unique situation. You're in Disney alone. There's not really anybody else there. Everyone's wearing masks. You see all of your teammates that you spend a majority of your day with going to get tested. How do you, quote unquote, forget?
I, I hope
Apparently,
he
Paul
was
Millsap sat out
napping.
for the same reason.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw someone else missed. I hope he was napping or like, just with a trainer and like, the timing just didn't work out like they thought. I don't know, Higgins. You hit the nail on the head. That's a confusing one.
I don't think forget is the right word in that situation because I don't think you can forget to just go get tested that day. It doesn't seem very plausible to me of that maybe he was napping and he missed the window. Maybe that's what happened, but I don't know. It seems a little weird.
Yeah, it's a that's a tough one for the Mavs, but I guess again, like thank God it's only 1 day quarantine because if he's missing 2 games and the Mavs are fighting for seeding and it could get ugly.
It can get ugly quick. Now let's move into the NFL, Brett, because I need to hear your opinion as a Jets fan. Jamal Adams is no more going to be repping that green. He's going to be repping a different shade of green on the opposite coast, the Seattle Seahawks.
Jamal Adams was traded? I had no idea. I
Yeah,
hadn't
yeah, he was
heard. No
traded.
way. Oh my god. He didn't say a word about it.
He
Yeah.
didn't dance on IG Live with a cigar or anything.
No, he wasn't driving around Dallas trying to get traded to Dallas or, talking to the New York Daily News about all the problems in the organization. No, that wasn't Jamal.
Hey, as a Giants fan, I'm happy he didn't get traded to Dallas. So the fact that he's in Seattle instead, thank you. Thank you.
I give Joe Douglas a lot of credit because it's not often you get 2 first round picks for any disgruntled player, but to get it for a disgruntled safety who, let's face it, he's, if not the best safety in the league, the second best safety in the league. And I mean, he's a talented player, but the Jets got, a very good quality safety back from Seattle and McDougal. They got 2 first. They sent a fourth to Seattle and got back another third. So I was very impressed with what Joe Douglas was able to bring back. Now, the Jets don't draft well, so they're probably going to take me and you with those picks. But at least we have picks. So it
Yeah, I'd
was a
say
great
that's what I've
return.
heard. I'd say that's what I've really heard of discontent from the Jets fans, though, is just there's no trust that you will wisely use those draft picks because the Jets historically do not draft well. I mean, Sam Darnold fell in their lap. Jamal Adams fell in their lap in a sense. But if it wasn't for that, who knows who they could have picked instead or how well those players could be playing somewhere else. I mean, we will find out in 2 years after that second first round draft pick is used just how good of a trade this was for the Jets and who the winner and losers were.
Or, I mean, uh, look, and you never wish this on anyone, but like in a season like this, I just think the Jets got lucky because they got assets for a guy who might get sick. Like, like so
Hmm.
and you're not going to pay the guy and you're not you never again, I don't want anyone to get sick. I want everyone to stay as healthy as possible and stay on the field, but I've watched baseball this weekend and I know I know the reality of the situation.
Now, you bring up an interesting point there in terms of getting a draft pick with a unique season. Now, the NBA and the NHL, they do lotteries. So that's, I guess, a fair way to determine this in an unfair season is just a random lottery like that. The NFL, it's all based off of the wins and losses of a team and everything like that. So in a unique season where we don't know how the NFL season's going to go right now. We don't know if it's going to end up going the full length, if it's going to end up getting cut short or what have you. That could raise some interesting questions on who gets to draft where or what's going to happen with next year's draft. I mean, there's some big names like Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence that could make some big impacts on teams that need a quarterback.
Yeah, lots of big time QB prospects out there. Trey Lance at North Dakota State threw 0 interceptions last year. He's a highly touted prospect as well. So you said that. I agree. Lots of big time talent out there at the quarterback position. But I also think to kind of counter that, like Mahomes gets sick. The Chiefs are not the same team. Same with Seattle and Russell Wilson. Like I almost think the Saints going out and getting a Jameis Winston, having a Taysom Hill to back up Drew Brees, that's what you need this year.
That's definitely the strongest quarterback room. I agree. Uh, it'll be interesting because the NFL and NFLPA just released their some of the guidelines regarding how they're going to restrict players' activities away from work, and it's similar to like the NBA of you are not necessarily allowed to go out to and just do whatever you want outside of work because of the risk that you could bring to the office in a sense. And it's kind of similar to the Lou Williams situation that we talked about. And I saw an interesting tweet, Brett, from Justin Tucker responding to the rookie linebacker Patrick Queen, who is a part of the Ravens now. He's going to be a rookie, but he's from LSU. And Patrick Queen was a little suspect about the new rules that the NFL is going to be putting in, and Justin Tucker just responds to him saying, "If you can stay out of the club until mid-February, I will go with you, and the bottles are on me."
Deal.
Deal.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, you got the table and the bottles, Mr. Tucker. I'm there. I totally. I mean, I think that's hilarious, but I totally think that's a real challenge for some of these guys. We saw Lou Will at Magic City. There's an Atlanta football team as well. Fly into town on a Saturday night. You never know.
It'll be very interesting to see, and NFL rosters are so much bigger too that controlling all of those players is going to be a monumental task compared to the size of NBA rosters.
Oh, well, you just put a little tape on the door, and then when they open the door, the tape rips, and that's how you know. That's how you get them.
Okay, okay.
I
Now
love
there,
this next story though. This next
yes.
story I absolutely love, and the Chiefs actually resigned his replacement today, but I don't want to get too ahead of it, so I'll let you tell it, and I'll just add on.
So the Chiefs starting right guard, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, decided to opt out of his contract due to coronavirus. Now, if you are unfamiliar with their right guard, this man has a doctorate. He is from Canada. He's one of the few Canadian football players in the NFL or to ever really play in the NFL. And he had been spending his off seasons getting his doctorate, and he's now doing residencies, and he's deciding he is going to continue to work in Canada as an orderly at a long term care facility instead of play football next year. He is going to go do some very important work right now, and I am all for it.
Yeah, his Instagram statement was amazing. This is a player that's asked to put MD, medical doctor, on his jersey last year and was told no by the NFL.
Boo,
And
no fun league, boo.
I mean, first of all, that's just stupid. Like
Why not? Just let
with
him
all
do
the
it.
negative press you get, why wouldn't you take free positive press?
And it's not like the XFL where he's trying to put a nickname on there. No, he earned to have MD after his name. He earned that.
Yeah, that was a weird one to me. When they told him no last year, that was confusing. Of course, the Chiefs went and signed former Jet. I can never say his name, but Kaslemi Ochile or whatever the heck it is. He was a bust with us last year. It wasn't worth learning his name. Is basically how I'd put it. But
Was he a bust or were the Jets a bust?
no, him specifically
Him
was
specifically.
he was a big gaping hole on our left side. But we get past that. I think it's a great low risk signing for the Chiefs. This was a highly sought after player a year ago, and obviously had a disappointing year in New York, and it didn't end well between him and Gase and all this other shit. So we let that go, and we just focus on Laurent and what a great job he's doing up in Canada. And that's a person that's really putting other people's lives before his own, and that's something we should admire.
And just to put in perspective the financial impact that Duvernay Tardif is going to be sacrificing by doing this, by going to be a doctor instead of playing the NFL, he was set to make 275, or sorry, $2.75 million. It's important to see the decimal there sometimes, Brett. He was supposed to make $2.75 million. And instead, with the opt out deal that he is doing, he is going to make $150,000 from his NFL deal. So He'll obviously have a salary as an orderly, as a doctor in Canada, but he's not going to make the same amount of money that he'd be making in the NFL. So this is a financial sacrifice, but he is, in my mind, absolutely doing the right thing, the noble thing, and it is a very honorable thing for him to do.
No, very cool story, for sure. And we wish him all the best. And I know the Chiefs fully support him, and they look forward to him coming back next season.
Speaking of another time that we have been right about things, though, Brett, the NHL, we said that Seattle had a big announcement coming out literally hours after episode 62 was going to be released. Well, we were right. Seattle's team name is the Kraken. The Seattle Kraken. And there's a few questions with this. First of all, what is the plural of Kraken? Is it Krakens or is it Kraken?
I think it's just Kraken. I'm gonna say Kraken.
I think it's just Kraken too. That feels
Yeah,
like it should be right. But
yeah.
also, I saw trending on Twitter everyone trying to be original with what I mentioned on Sunday night's recording of if the name is Kraken, that there needs to be some type of sponsorship deal or alcohol branding deal with Kraken rum.
Well, I've heard rumors that like the Seattle fan base they want to call themselves crackheads, and I think that's hilarious.
I saw that too. I saw that too. They were talking about calling the stadium the Crack House as a
The
nickname.
crack house. Ah, that's pretty funny. I mean, you know, it's funny when people can do things like that. I got a good laugh out of the crackheads as a fan base.
I also saw something interesting of might not have been the best day to announce your team name in Seattle because it's not necessarily creating the best relationship with the other teams in Seattle. I mean, that was Seattle Mariners opening day. It should have been their day in the sports world in that city, but instead, the new NHL team decided to steal all the thunder.
I don't know. I think the Mariners took care of business against the Astros, and I'm sure the Seattle faithful were very happy with that. They got Jamal Adams, so actually, it was just everyone trying to take the Mariners spotlight here. The Kraken, the Seahawks. I'm sure the Sonics broke some news. So yeah, no one was letting the Mariners have their opening day.
Well, you mentioned the Sonics. That needs to be the next project for Seattle. Bring the Seattle Supersonics back.
Keep Portland weird.
Keep Portland weird. But, Brett, we mentioned the Mariners when we were talking about the Kraken right there, and it's fitting that we jump right back into the MLB real quick for our Levy Lock and Higgins pick of the pod, and you and I are on opposite sides of this. You picked it first, so I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I guess one of us is going to lose. There's no line out for the Mets Red Sox game, but the Mets, after a heartbreaker on Saturday and getting beaten to hell on Sunday, they're going to come out and beat the Red Sox on Monday on the money line. Like I said, there's no line out currently on Sunday night. The Mets were playing late, but I expect the Mets to come back after playing the second best team in the NL, maybe, and beat up on the Red Sox, whose pitching has looked awful this season so far. And the bats have been pretty quiet down in Baltimore. And I just think the Mets are better than the Orioles. And if they had that much trouble with the Orioles, this is a step up in competition.
And I did just decide to check to make sure there wasn't a line out because the Mets game did finish while we were recording this, like I mentioned earlier, but there is still no line out. And Brett, losing 14-1 to the Braves is rather demoralizing, especially after giving up Saturday's loss as well. So I wouldn't be that confident in the Mets, even though they played much more quality competition of the Braves compared to the Red Sox against the Orioles. Now, the Red Sox started that series very well, scoring 13 runs and winning 13 to 2. It was the next two games that they kind of let slip, and they should be leaving that series rather frustrated. They need to get back on the right track. With the expanded playoffs, that should give them new life to potentially be able to make it into the playoffs as a another wild card team. So the Red Sox against the Mets, it's gonna be in Boston, and I think the Red Sox are going to turn it back around here, especially after the Mets just lost 14-1.
All right, we agree to disagree. I mean, I don't think I'd be able to wake up on Tuesday if the Mets lost to the Red Sox after how they played this series in Baltimore. So, I don't know. Maybe there's a little homer in me, but I do think the step up in competition. The Red Sox struggled in Baltimore. No one expects Baltimore to be competitive. A lot of people expect the Mets to be competing for that NL East title. So the Mets really need to beat up on these bottom teams in their divisions, like the Marlins, like the Baltimore Orioles, like Toronto, like the Red Sox, because they're going to struggle when they play the Phillies, the Braves, the Yankees, even the Tampa Bay Rays. So they got to beat up on the bottom feeders.
I think that you can switch out the Red Sox and the Mets name in exactly what you just said, though, because I think the Mets are in a very similar position as the Red Sox in the NL East. I mean, they're also going to be one of the bottom feeders of the fourth, around third or fourth team, whereas the Red Sox should also be around the third or fourth team.
Mets were preseason second favorite to come out of well, I guess the Nationals, but
The
then the
Nationals and the
Nationals
Braves.
had a lot of injuries on opening day, and the odds kind of flipped a little bit then. But you're right, preseason before the Juan Soto news, yes, the Nats were the second favorite. So I guess that's a fair point. I don't know. I think the Mets much more quality team than the Red Sox from rotation to bullpen to even batting order 1 through 9. There's just a step up there.
Well, speaking of the rotation, the probable pitchers for Monday's game are Michael Wacha for the Mets and Josh Osich for the Red Sox, and that's a 7:30 first pitch on the East Coast.
Waka waka.
Waka waka waka.
Waka waka waka.
Well, we gave you our picks. We gave you a few MLB picks at the top of the show. We gave you a Levy lock and a pick of the pod at the bottom of the show. Make sure to follow us on social media to get our other picks that we might have for Monday night or for Tuesday and Wednesday's games before we record again for episode 64. Follow us on social media at MBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page where we'll be posting those picks I just mentioned. This has been episode 63 of The Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you later this week.
I'm sorry, Colecchio Semele.
Have a good one.